All right, welcome everybody. I am Dawson, your host. I have one of my new wonderful co-hosts here.
Hello, everybody.
All right, awesome. This is Pat. All right, Pat. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, I have been playing this game for about 9 years.
Wow.
A lot of times when I mention that to people, they are like, "I had no idea this was even a thing back then." Um, Interestingly enough, obviously it's been around for a lot longer than people think, but randomly came across it. Still don't know why I decided to go play because I definitely had not heard of it at the time. But just got hooked. I remember playing mostly against older people, thinking I was pretty good. Went to my first tournament, and it was just like a random partner deal. And like we were warming up, and he's like, "Hey, you want to hit some drop shots?" And I was like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." So I got it was a great experience, and I usually tell people to try to get that experience if they can. But yeah, been playing for about 9 years. Started coaching, got like the certification and stuff, PPR about 2 years ago. So I work at a couple clubs in the area, and yeah, just a big fan of the game and everything that surrounds it. There's so much more to this game than just the game itself. The people involved, the tournament scenes, all the paddles, all that type of stuff. So, I think it's an awesome opportunity to be involved with something like this. Because Dawson's obviously has a good thing going here, and just looking to get myself out there and support the podcast moving forward.
Yeah, I actually super appreciate you being here. So, yeah, 9 years. Wow, you got me beat. I'm trying to think. I consider 2019 my like official
Okay,
start, but I had that experience of like first experiencing pickleball in like towards the end of 2018. So I think I'm year 6 right now. That's wow, I was not expecting 9. That's a long time.
yeah,
So you're what? You're 2016 then,
around
right?
there, yeah, yeah. I think it was like
Oh my
the
goodness.
winter
So
of
you because
2016.
I'll put it like this. I did chalk a tennis court or two in 2019 in New England. So you must have been solely chalking for a bit there.
Yes,
Oh boy. Yeah, I call those the horror stories of pickleball right
yeah,
there.
a lot of gyms. It was mostly like lines
Yep.
on basketball courts, and
That still
I
happens, by the way.
yeah. Oh, for sure. But I remember the
I
first time I saw like a dedicated court and net, I was like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. So it's come a long way.
I still think that most of the time I see the dedicated courts. I am a little picky now though. Like if I see cracks or like it's super
Yeah.
tight, I'm like, oh.
Yeah. It's
But
odd
I'll still play. Like listen,
for sure.
I was about to say there's a tournament around here, the what is it? It's the Bay State games. I
Yeah.
think
I played that years ago. That was
I was about
basketball courts. Yep.
I was about to say it's still on those same basketball courts. They just
Yep.
switched venues this year. The different venue is also on basketball courts. So
Nice.
I'm
Good switch
convinced
then.
it's like a heritage thing. It has to
Yeah.
happen there.
Seems like it.
I'm trying to think. I know I won it. I won it. I think in like the equivalent of 4 or 5. They
Yeah. They didn't have
want to
like
say in
anything above that.
2023, and like it was the same. It's been those same courts for the 4 years that I played that tournament, something
Yeah.
like that.
I
And
stopped
it's
going.
always around this time of year, like
Yeah.
June,
I
July.
get the email still,
Yeah,
actually. Yeah. I got to
I actually
remove
think I do
myself from
too.
it, but
Yeah. No, I like getting the emails. I think it's good. It's good to know what's going on.
yeah.
But yeah, so all right. So awesome. If you want to go into what clubs you're at, you can. For
Yeah, no.
yeah.
So I am at Lifetime in Westwood. I guess I guess I'd be like the head pro there. Quotes on pro. And then I'm at LTP in Easton, which is a relatively newer facility, but I'm sure people in the area are familiar with it.
Is that it's love to pickle or live to pickle?
That's a good question. I'm honestly not sure. From my understanding, like when I was going through like the interview process and stuff, I thought it was more like maybe that is what it is, but I think it has to do with like the people that started it. It's like three
Yep.
couples. So I think it's like their names or something like that. That's what they explained it to me.
That's pretty
But
cool.
yeah, I have the shirt too. I guess it might say on
Yeah,
the
I
shirt. I'd
have
have to look
one
at
of
it,
the
but
stickers they gave me at the opening party. They gave all
yeah,
of us. That's how you know that you were at the whatever the
nice
opening party is. They
badge of
gave you like
honor.
stickers. That was our version of name tags.
There you go.
But yeah, no, it's a beautiful club.
Oh
Definitely
yeah,
check that out. That's in Easton, and then you're at Lifetime Westwood,
Westwood.
right? Yeah,
Yep,
also a beautiful club too.
for sure.
I used to work at Lifetime Framingham back in the
Okay.
day, and I actually just saw Westwood for the first time recently, and I was like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, so it's just that look, the lifetimes are all very similar if you've been
Oh
in
yeah.
a lifetime before, but it's sometimes it's the way they're laid out or the size of the
Mhm.
lifetime is a lot different than some of the other
Others.
lifetimes.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool at least. Awesome, man. Well, definitely looking forward to having you. We're kind of still navigating that for all you guys of what
Yep.
the co-host hosts ratio on these things is going to be, but I'm thinking you're going to be a regular staple. So expect to see
Looking
more of
forward to it.
Pat. Anyways, we can go into tournaments, sure. Speaking of tournaments, you got anything you've been playing? Actually, you're tournament director in too, right? A little bit.
I help out. I wouldn't say
Okay.
director into that extent. I mean, it's definitely like a team effort.
Yeah.
We don't do a ton at
Okay.
Lifetime. So when we do, it's kind of like all hands on deck. So we get a guy that does most of that stuff, but I
Okay.
definitely, like I said, it is definitely a group effort.
Yeah.
Um, and then obviously LTP, like, the people that run it over there, they're pretty well set up with how to do that and do that pretty well.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I don't have anything, like I was saying to you kind of off camera before. I definitely, the one thing, and I remember somebody telling me this, like when I got into coaching, I definitely don't play as much now that I coach. Um, so, as far as tournaments go, I think the last one I did was December that I actively played it myself. But I definitely, I'll go to some in the area just to kind of see those regulars because, a lot of times in this area, it's a lot of the same people that are there. Still, even like, 5, 6 years removed, I'm still seeing the same people. So,
Which is
so
funny.
yeah, I'll definitely still check some out from time to time. But as far as playing, I just feel like I'm just getting old at this point. I got to wait till like, 40 plus or something like that if they start
Oh
setting that
my
up around
goodness.
here.
Senior pro at 40.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Um, no, I'm joking. In all seriousness, though, I actually do train with a lot of our senior pro and senior pro upcoming players a lot of the time when I hit. So I do want to
I'm
shout
sure
them
they'd
out. They're,
smoke me too.
I was about to say they're all
Oh yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
Like level wise, some of them are some of the top players in like the mass area for
yeah,
their perspective ages and genders and all that. So I always preface that when I talk to people about like the senior pro scene in this area and stuff like that is they can play. Like I
oh for
think some
sure.
people hear that and they're like, but yeah, I always preface at least in especially in pickleball where like I really don't think age matters a ton. In doubles pickleball, I don't think it matters a ton.
Yeah.
All right, singles
Oh yeah,
it matters, like it's a lot more running than people think it is. But
yeah,
like, doubles and even doubles you can run a good amount too. And
yeah,
it's good cardio. Like I just played earlier today indoors in this humidity and I think I sweat through like 3 shirts. But
yeah, yep. I'm with you.
um yeah, so definitely interesting. But yeah, I will sneak you in there for one or two at some point.
There you
I'm
go.
I'm I'm in your boat too. I wasn't playing a ton prior to once I really started up the channel, that was kind of my focus. And so that's what I was doing a lot of. And I'm slowly getting back into them again now.
There
I,
you go.
I try to do like the charity ones if I can, like the ones that are a good cause, because I
Yeah,
feel like, you know, whatever, if the money's going to go, I'd rather it go to a good cause than
yeah.
just so I try
No,
to do
that's a
those. And then there's
good
some
call.
too that like they're causes I've helped out with outside of pickleball, and it's like a bonus to me that they're also in
Yeah.
pickleball.
No, that's a good
So
idea. And I think, like we were saying too, there's so many of them now that
oh
you kind of have the ability to be a little more selective. I remember
oh,
back
yeah.
in the day, it was just like, like we said, there were a couple places around here that did them. whenever they'd come up, I was signing up. So I think the fact that there are so many places, so many, people, places putting on tournaments, I think gives you the ability to be a little more selective. So that sounds like a good idea on your part. Just,
Yeah.
you know, putting it towards
Well, it's
something.
also it's also what's around and what kind of works with the schedule. And
Oh, that's
so,
a
but
factor
yeah,
too.
I
Yeah.
mean, I was about to say it's more scheduling than anything, but that's also just like we'll call it a moral feather in the cap here.
There you go.
So, which is
Noted.
funny because I normally have a hat on for
All right.
doing this stuff. This is one of the few moments I don't. But yeah. So, that's a little bit of that. But yeah, so anyways, we are going to talk about him even though he's not on here yet. He will be next week though. But our friend Vinny Pickleball just signed with Volair.
Big deal.
That's a
Drum
big
roll.
deal.
Yeah.
I did I'm pretty sure it's, just like the content creator type of thing. But yeah, so he's gonna be repping all Volair. I jokingly texted him, I was like, dude, I gotta pull you out of the paddle segment now. But other than that,
Yeah.
like you're good. Like so, but he loves his funny content. I'm sure some of you guys listening to this have heard of Vinny, all that. But if you haven't, definitely check him out. Vinny Pickleball on Instagram. I think it's that on YouTube too, but I know Instagram is his like primary
Yeah, he's still
platform.
kind of figuring out the YouTube stuff,
Yeah.
but I believe that's what it is. But it's definitely not
Well,
as out there as the Instagram.
the YouTube algorithm, in my opinion, just makes no sense. But it's the Instagram one makes sense somewhat. At least for like the reels and stuff versus the
Yeah.
shorts on here is like I a different chat for not this podcast, but
Yeah.
yeah. Um yeah, no, I'm super excited for him though, and we'll have him on, stuff like that. So that'll be really fun to talk about. I know he's in Austin right now. He just sent
Yes.
me something that he like hit at the kitchen the other day, which like super jealous of. That looked
Yeah.
awesome.
I've only
So,
watched it on TV.
I think we could have watched it on TV. Like I think they have the entire court camera rigged. So,
Oh wow.
well, yeah, they're doing a lot in the space now. I know they got a podcast now too, stuff like that. They've been doing a lot of media stuff coverage for years too.
Yeah, they've been ahead of the game, I feel like,
Yeah,
with a lot of
I
that
think
stuff.
they did the forum thing originally on Facebook, and then they kind of just like blew up on there, and they expanded into like kind of being like the Dink, where they're more like media per se now, which is funny though because I think those two
Yes.
don't like each other. So I think that's like a beef.
Wouldn't doubt it.
There's yeah, which
Yeah.
not going to get into,
Pickleball
but
beefs. Yeah.
which is I just yeah. So that's really cool. Yeah, I saw him with what's his name? The guy that's the head of the kitchen, all that in like a photo too. So that's super cool. But yeah, anyways, we're gonna dive into my favorite segment now of the day. We're gonna do paddle of the week. Um,
Nice.
I also have been calling it. We actually do have to vote on this at some point off air,
There you
but
go.
we're either gonna go paddle of the week or current paddle of choice (CPOC). I kind of like it.
CPOC. All right. Like
I
I love
kind of like it
abbreviations too. So
CPOC. So
yeah.
basically, this is just where we talk about what we've been testing, what we've been hitting, stuff like that. Pat's probably down the road going to be doing a little more testing with me. I know through your clubs, I'm sure you're doing a bunch already just through your gig. So, I guess I'll go first here. So, for those of you that have watched my prior podcasts, you know that I for a long time was hitting the Carbon 2X True Foam. I do love that paddle. Mine, that's the handle is just like a 0.2 to 2.5 inches smaller than I'd
Mm,
love. And
get that tennis background.
I mained it for like 5 months. Like it's a great paddle, but paddles die eventually. And like, you know, I pondered the 3X, but my 3X came in on the heavier side, and I just was like, I'm not going into this paddle to remove weight. It's just too much effort for me. So I was toying around. I flirted a little with this
No.
recently. The Vapor Power. I feel like I see these like once
Yeah.
a session when I go to
At
any
least.
form of pickleball or I see
Yep.
the all court. What I have been testing with it though is the flick weights. And these I don't see much right now, but they are awesome. Also, shout out Flick Weight on a side note for sending these. I will definitely get some in your hands soon, Pat, to test out as well. Yeah, I like this. I just also first off, shape wise, this shape is awesome. It's a
Yeah.
16.1 by 7.9. Big fan of that shape in general because it's like a you get the benefits of a standard shape, but you get that extra point 0.1 a reach, basically. So, it just was a little too uncontrollable for me. So I kind of went against that.
Mm.
And I went back to a paddle that I did main earlier this year for a little bit, the Bread and Butter Invader. Funny enough, I saw today exactly, this is the first time I've been to the courts where someone else besides me was hitting an Invader.
Yeah, I've never seen one. I've
I
seen
was
it, but
about to
I've never seen it
say.
on the court.
Yeah, I see it and I've seen it on like Instagram. I've never
Yes.
seen it like on the courts I was in. Outside of and the few times I see it on the court, it's usually another creator or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, it's a great paddle. It's I like the price that it's at, personally. It's morally a price I feel okay with in pickleball personally to me. Same setup. I actually only use a flick weight. So I'm normally notorious for tinkering a ton, adding weight, stuff like that. This isn't weight, by the way. This is just electrical protection
Electric
tape
tape.
because I find for me the first thing to go is the edge guard,
Oh yeah.
followed by the
Yep.
core usually. So
Yep.
it's a habit of mine. I always will tape the top of a paddle if I'm using it anything more than just testing. But no, usually I'll toss weight kind of down here or like into the face a little. And this is one of the few paddles I just feel like it's really well balanced. It doesn't really need it. It's this awesome hybrid shape, which is a thing I really like. And the flick weight, I just recently started testing and I actually found it helped this paddle a ton because it brought the sweet spot down a little further and I liked it. It made it feel like a kind of wide body standard shape, which is more of what I'm used to in a main, while kind of keeping that hybrid extra reach. And then the titanium, the PET weave face, this thing's awesome. Like, I don't know if you've hit with a paddle with titanium on it before, but like the amount of forgiveness you get from it, like dinking and stuff like that, compared to even the carbon fiber is like pretty crazy. And it still has the fiberglass undersheet.
All right.
So you get like it gets power. You're gonna get the Gen 2 power, which is actually I kind of like that more to be honest. I've hit a lot of the Gen 3s and 4s, and I watch my ball hit the curtain a lot and go out a
Yeah.
lot. And it's like, yeah, I can control it somewhat, but it's also like, I'd say it's a conversation I have with a lot of people is, there are paddles that are fun, and then there are paddles that are good for your game.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had that conversation coaching as well at some point.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that's what I'm rocking the Invader for now. I was about to say I'm gonna have to let you hit this too at some point. I know
Yeah.
you
No, it
like
sounds
this one. I was about to
sounds
say we got a good paddle
enticing.
stack here coming Pat's way soon. But anyways, let's hear your journey. What do you got going on so far?
So I wish I had busted out the tape measure and stuff like that. I don't
That's
have the
okay.
exact dimensions, I've been rocking the Selkirk Project 008
Ooh.
13 millimeter Invicta.
Ooh.
Um I don't know. I definitely feel like I've I've always been like a elongated paddle
Okay.
guy. Like I remember rocking the Ben Johns Franklin back in the day. Like
Oh
I bought
my goodness.
like three of them
Love
because
it.
that was just I loved the shape. It was like back
Yeah.
then like not a lot of paddles were doing the longer handle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, I'm thinking maybe of moving towards more of a wide body paddle just to kind of see, how that feels, give myself a little more of a sweet spot instead of that extra reach. I mean, I'm already kind of a little bit on the taller side. But yeah, as far as paddle goes, pure foam, that's kind of the selling point with the Project 008. So definitely a little bouncier, a little poppier, not like, not on the level of, like Diolas and stuff like that. It's not flying. It doesn't have like that trampoline effect. but definitely a little poppier. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm definitely still getting used to it. But you know, to me, as far as like what I kind of like to see, long handle, you know, because I definitely prefer utilizing a two hand when I can. Um, and then obviously just any type of carbon fiber, just so I can get that kind of grip
Yeah.
on the ball. But even just like you kind of mentioned, the titanium sounds exciting because it seems like there's always companies putting new stuff out there. You know, whether it's titanium or Kevlar, whatever it is. So I feel like these days there's too many paddles out there. It used to be a lot more just like, these are the only companies that are doing it. So it's been harder for me to try out new ones. So I would definitely be curious to kind of see how some of those other paddles feel. But yeah, this is probably what I've been going with for maybe like a month now at
Okay.
this point.
What were you on
Um,
prior to it, out of curiosity?
I had I'm trying to think. It was just the Jack Sock version. Now I can't even think of the name of the
Oh, the
paddle, which
Lux.
is ridiculous. Yes, yes, thank you.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
that's a sweet colorway, by the way, the Jack Sock version. That was like the black and
yes,
the red, and that's
yep,
awesome.
yep,
It beats having
yeah.
that
Again,
like weird white and bright color on it
yeah,
that is like distracting to the eyes. I never understood why paddle companies did that, but other than
it's
marketing, I
different.
guess.
Yeah,
But yeah, so it sounds like you're a big Selkirk guy historically. That's cool.
yeah. I mean, like I said, I've kind of gone all over. But as far they've definitely been in the game
Yeah.
since I've been around.
Oh yeah.
They're tried and true company. Warranty stuff's pretty good. But yeah, I haven't always been, but
Okay.
I'm
Good.
always willing to,
I
try
was
new
about to
stuff as
say,
well. So
as long as you're not trying to stay one, we're good.
no, no,
No, so I got an old paddle for you back in the day because you mentioned the Ben John signature. This was around long before the Ben John signature, and at the time it was probably the longest handle I could think of that was legal. The Paddle Tech Bantam Saber Pro.
yep,
Think at one point I was playing these. I played these up until the very first Ben John's Hyperion came out.
okay,
I
that's a
remember going
while.
to a tournament at the time, and we were the only guys there without this thing, and we got smoked. And I was like, oh my God, they're like hitting like it's like tennis
Yeah,
almost. And then we both looked at each other and we are like, all right. And we like went out and dropped like 200 something dollars on these things.
yeah,
And then they like died in like 3 months. And we're like, wait, what the heck? Like, and so, yeah, that's so funny to me that you'd mentioned the Franklin and all that. I
yep.
actually I have a couple wood pedals still here.
All
I do
right,
have one that is, there is a company that is trying to like make wood competitive too. So it's a performance paddle.
yeah,
I do have one that it's newer, but I have some of those old like Dillards, like
yep,
back in the day and stuff like that. That's cool, man. That's actually one of the few of the foam paddles I haven't hit, so I'm definitely gonna snag that
for
for
sure.
whatever,
Yeah, I'd
couple
be curious to
points or
try the
something.
CRBN too. I
Yeah.
was definitely more of a CRBN guy for a while.
Okay.
So I haven't tried out the new stuff they got coming out, but I've
You know,
definitely seen them out there on the courts for sure.
my joke I tell people is be careful because once you try them, you're gonna be out $280.
Oh yeah, yep,
Or whatever to whatever after code DDOG Pickleball at
yeah,
checkout is like 265 to say whatever it is. That's a running
under
joke I
three
have with
though.
people on that. They're great paddles though. I
Oh yeah,
have really minimal at most complaints to them. My gripe with the two is the handle, and then
set a little short, right?
the other two, they were just kind of heavy, like out of the box, and like those are paddles. You don't have to add weight, but adding weight with the foam paddles, I find just helps them even more because it just helps open the foam up further. And so, at least just from my brief time with the brief amount of foam paddles I've had, or
Yeah,
Gen 3, Gen 4 style paddles, which are similar. So yeah, I mean, and then you haven't hit the new ripples, right?
no,
Yeah, Those will rock your world then. They hit hard. I'll put it like that. I'll put it like that. I've had, I'm pretty sure I've had every iteration of the Ripple at one point. So I had the rocket launcher one, which was the one before these ones. I remember going to the court with this and like trying to play a serious game. And I like stuck the paddle out like this. So like just lightly block a ball in a warm up
Yeah.
into the fence. I was like, I looked at the paddle and I was like, dude, I don't think I can like play with this. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, what is this? Like, yeah, they're fun. They're a lot of fun. I'm not gonna lie. I can't like play my best type of pickleball with them at times, but there's times when I can, and when I can, it's a lot of fun. Those will be pretty popular too, though. And then there's some stuff coming out that's it's gonna be interesting. I can't really go into a ton of it, but yeah, there's some stuff that I think will definitely wow you guys. But yeah, I'll have to sneak into one of these clubs at some point or sneak outside and get some
Yeah.
paddle testing going. But yeah, that's all I had for today, guys. This was going to be on the shorter side for podcasts. We kind of knew that. We're also missing Vinny right now. So when we get Vinny back next week, we'll get that going. We'll ask him about his trip in Texas. And that's all I got. You got anything, Pat?
No, just thanks for having me on, and looking forward to being here when I can, as much as I can.
All right, awesome, man.